You having a good day so far?
Yeah, it's quiet. It's COVID quiet.
COVID quiet. Do you still call Long Island your home these days?
I do.
Are you allowed to say what town, or is that confidential, secret location?
I don't want people knocking on my door.
Well, either way, I do have some Long Island questions for you. I'm dialing in from Long Beach, which is presumably within an hour and a half of where you are, but
Oh, it's less than that. It's straight across the island. Yeah.
fantastic. Congratulations on this new record you've got. 20 years in the making since your last studio album, but not the only Blue Oyster Cult album we've gotten, because there's been great compilations and live releases. But when did you actually start making The Simple Remains?
Well, we had this sort of bubbling under for a while. So some of these songs have been ready for quite a while. But our manager, who also lives in Long Beach,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I don't know if he's on the border of Lido Beach or Long Beach, but right around there.
Is that
And
Steve Davis?
we used Long Beach High School to make the videos. I guess did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about that part. Seriously, I love the video. I was going to compliment you guys for the job that you did. You're talking about the Box in My Head video?
Yeah, there's 4 videos actually. The Alchemist, Box in My Head, and the other 2.
And the other 2.
Yeah, that was me. We did 4 videos all in one day at Long Beach High School.
Wow.
Our manager lives in Long Beach, and his daughter goes to Long Beach High School. Of course, you people watching on video, wherever you are, Long Beach is a suburb of New York City, and on Long Island. And so his daughter goes to Long Beach High School, and she is, I guess, works on the TV station in the high school. And it's pretty hip that the high school has a TV station, a little different than when I went to high school. The teacher of the class actually lives on their street. So he cajoled the guy into, could we get in there? This is early September before classes opened.
Mm-hmm.
So we got in there from 8:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. We had to be out. So we had, 8 hours to make 4 videos against the green screen in the high school. And so we all wore masks, and we all were in this little room off to the side. And it was wham, bam, hurry up, So each guy got in front of the green screen, played his part on 4 songs, and then get off. And then the next guy went in, and et cetera, et cetera. We had to break the drums down a few different times and put them back up. And of course, we all did a lip sync. And then other parts of the videos were done and other parts later. But that's how we made those 4 videos, which are all up on YouTube right now. But that's a Long Beach connection.
Long Beach, I didn't mean this to be the Long Beach interview, but, Joan Jett lives on my block. 2 members of Taking Back Sunday live here. Steve Davis, who used to be like the number 3 in Atlantic Records and still manages bands, he's here. Randy Nichols is here. Long Beach has...
Joan Jett lives out there too, right?
On our block, yeah. You see her walking around every now and then.
Yeah.
She made a music video or 2 on the boardwalk here. The Beastie Boys made part of their first music video here. It's just this weird thing where nobody in Long Beach knows that all this is happening, yet so much has happened here.
Yeah, I love Joni. She's a great person.
Absolutely. And a weird thing to me about Blue Oyster Cult, who I respect to no end, and love and look at as one of the innovative bands of hard rock and rock in general, is when people think of Long Island rock, usually they think of Billy Joel, and they don't think of Blue Oyster Cult. But in my opinion, Blue Oyster Cult is the definitive hard rock Long Island band. Is that something that you're okay with, or did you guys actively try to not be thought of as Long Island in the same sentence?
We didn't think about any of those things. We just wanted to make some music. We didn't think about geography. Of course, this is the internet era. So when this goes out on the airwaves, people don't know all the geography of Long Island. You know, it's people in Alaska are watching this, so it doesn't matter. But Long Island is an extension off of, actually, it's an island off the coast of the United States, with the southern tip of it touching New York City just about,
Right.
and connected by bridges and tunnels. And the end of it is actually off by Connecticut. So you have to look at a map of the United States to realize what Long Island is, but there's millions of people living on it. So it's the burbs of New York City, basically. And people out there, you know, have heard of the Hamptons, which is way out east.
Right.
Where a lot of rich people live, and Paul McCartney and a lot of other people.
Yeah.
But it's where I've lived most of my life. And when the band first started, the first band house was in Great Neck, which is close into New York City, but actually in Nassau County, which is the closest into New York City county of Long Island. And the band house was started in 1967, and the first band house, and I think we lived there till about 1970, 71. And then the next band house was out by Dix Hills. And then from Dix Hills, we moved to Eaton's Neck. And then I think we were done with band houses, and we started doing well enough to get our own places. So we lived all over the island. And I grew up in Queens, and Buck was born in Merrick and moved to St. James. And we were the New York, the actual Long Island, New Yorkie residents. Alan Lanier grew up in the South and moved to Greenwich where he grew up. And the Bouchard brothers originally were from upstate New York. Clayton, New York, was up near the Finger Lakes.
I didn't know any of that. Usually when people talk about Blue Oyster Cult, for some reason they always say Stony Brook, way out east.
Well, you know, that's one of those apocryphal stories that all the guys went to Stony Brook, and whereas none of them did. Sandy Pearlman, who was our original manager,
right,
he went to Stony Brook. Richard Meltzer, who wrote lyrics like "Burning for You," he went to Stony Brook with Pearlman, and they were buddies at Stony Brook, and I think they were there at the same time. And when I moved into the band's first house in Great Neck, Richard Meltzer and his girlfriend were living in the band house, and Sandy had already finished graduate school. When I met him, he went to Brandeis, and he had already graduated Stony Brook and Brandeis. He was a Woodrow Wilson Fellow. He was quite a bright guy. And Dave Roeder, who wrote Joan Crawford, he went to Stony Brook. And one of our first roadies also went to Stony Brook. It was like a lot of, you know, people around Stony Brook were part of the scene. And that's just the way it was back in those days. I was added to that scene later on.
You said Brandeis, you said Great Neck. It sounds like you're playing Jewish geography right there.
Well, yeah, in a way. Although, you know, Pearlman and I were really, and Meltzer, I guess we were the only Hebes involved.
On that wavelength, Blue Oyster Cult did tour with Kiss. Did you ever have a conversation with Gene or Paul about Judaism?
Not really. You know, the conversations themselves were few and far between. They opened for us. Their first show ever was New Year's Eve of 1973 in Manhattan, and Kiss was the opening act. They were shoved onto a 3-act bill, and they were the 4th act unbilled, and they were not on the they weren't billed at all. They were shoved under Teenage Lust, who was the opening act. So it was Kiss, Teenage Lust, Iggy Pop, and Blue Oyster Cult. And they were great. They were, you know, certainly blew the place up that night. But, you know, I was friendly with those guys early on. And then they got very big, very fast. And we actually opened for them later on, or not open, but we were a special guest.
Yeah, a pioneering thing about Blue Oyster Cult. Tell me if I have this wrong. Were you guys the first band to use lasers in concert?
No, but we became famous for it because we we sort of broke the sort of horizon or the limit on what lasers could do. We had the best laser show, certainly, and I think we made using lasers, in our show, famous. I saw Wings before we did it, and they had lasers when they did Live and Let Die. So Live and Let Die,
Oh yeah.
they had lasers coming up on those notes. And also I saw Led Zeppelin. They used lasers during a single laser light over the top of Jimmy Page's head during a solo. And it was just a light, it just didn't do anything special. But that was before us. But what we took was, it's a long story, but Perlman found this sort of eccentric laserist who was doing a laser show in a loft in Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
a guy named David Infante. And he was an inventor and scientist, and he had a laser show in a loft. And Perlman said, "You got to see this stuff." So he brought us down there. And, we were flush with the money from Agents of Fortune and Don't Fear the Reaper. And he said, we could take this on the road if we spent a lot of money. And we said, let's do it. So we pissed away all our money and took this stuff on the road. And, every time something broke, it cost a fortune, and it broke all the time. So after about a year and a half or so, we gave up on it. But for a while, we were doing amazing things.
Yeah, Blue Oyster Cult definitely always followed the beat of its own drum, whether or not people picked up on it immediately. And so that's something that we're talking about 40 plus years later, that you did the lasers. Music videos, you guys were early on as well. Was that Sandy being ahead of everything and reading stuff, or was everyone in the band always reading and thinking?
Are you talking about lasers or just in general?
Music videos, lasers, etc.
Yeah. Well, MTV. It just so happened we were there.
Yeah.
MTV opened for business right around the time we started doing in 1981. We had "Burning for You" as a hit, and we wanted to take advantage of MTV's early popularity.
Yeah.
And so we made 2 videos in one day. With a small budget, and we made "Burning for You" and Joan Crawford videos in 24 hours, and we schlepped all over LA to make those 2 videos. If you're familiar with the movie Them,
Mm-hmm.
which was the giant ant movie,
Yeah.
with James Whitmore, we went down to those LA drainage ditches in Los Angeles, where the giant ants were copulating, and we made the video there for "Burning for You," and then we rented a house somewhere and did the Joan Crawford video, all with no sleep in 24 hours, just to save money, and the Joan Crawford video was banned on MTV. It had a little something that they didn't like in it. But the "Burning for You" video, was on MTV a lot in MTV's earliest days.
So if I can recap what I've already learned from you, you made 2 videos in a 24-hour period in 1981. In 2020, you made 4 music videos in like a 10-hour period.
Yeah, well, we didn't make the videos in those 8 hours, but we did the basics for those videos at Long Beach High School. Then it all went to Richie Castellano's studio in his garage to finish it up, which took a lot of burning the midnight oil.
Right.
To Richie and Steve Shank, our manager, went down to Richie's basement and did all the editing and all the special effects and everything over many, many, many nights for like 2 straight weeks to get those videos in shape.
So what I'm getting at is you guys have never really been afraid of being hands-on or getting your hands dirty, whereas a lot of bands kind of go, we write the songs and then they do all the business, they do all the logistics, and we smile and look pretty.
Well, back in those days, in the 80s, you could pass off a video to a video company.
Hmm.
There were funds for that. Um, these days, making records is a very different business
Right.
because records really don't sell unless you're Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
or a hip hop artist. So, in our genre, being a quote unquote legacy act, or a classic rock act, trying to sell records in our genre is very, very difficult. It's mostly streaming, and selling physical CDs or physical vinyl is very difficult. So the cash flow from what we do is not forthcoming. So everything is tight, and so we were on our own kind of budget to make these videos happen, and we thought it was important.
Right.
So we did it all in house.
That makes sense to me. You guys are also ahead of the pack when it came to realizing that touring was where you were going to make your money. A lot of your peers who, you hear Burning for You and Godzilla and Don't Fear the Reaper and all that on classic rock radio, but you guys never rested on your laurels and went, well, that's all we're known for. that kind of compliment is what I'm intending. When was it, though, that you realized that you weren't touring to promote an album, you were doing an album to promote a tour?
Well, I would say, is the chicken or the egg. It's normally, we would be in a normal universe. You would write the songs,
Right.
record the songs, and then tour the songs. And however, in the COVID universe, we can't tour the songs.
Right.
So we have to make do with doing videos, putting them on YouTube, and hope something clicks. I think we maybe have 3 gigs, booked, and maybe 40 or 50 crossed off and moved into 21.
Yeah.
And cross our fingers that they actually get played. As we speak, we're supposed to be in England right now, touring with Deep Purple. It's been shifted to October of 21. We were also supposed to do a rock cruise in February. They got pushed into February of 22. And the clock is ticking. I'm 75 years old. So let's hope we can do it. We'll be out there because we want to be. We like. There's probably nobody. You do a lot of these interviews. There's probably nobody you ask who doesn't want to do what we do. We like to work. We like to play. All musicians like to go out and play. So that's what we wanted to do when we were 20 something. And it's what we want to do now at this time of our lives too.
That all makes sense to me, man. I can't put it any better. But do you have time for 3 quick questions and then you're free?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, first question I have. You were part of my favorite charity single of all time, Hearing Aid Stars.
That's right.
Was that as great of an experience as it looked like it was? And if the answer is no, you could still go next.
Oh, no, it was absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. I didn't know probably 2/3 of those guys personally. So I got to make a lot of new acquaintances. A lot of those guys were West Coast bands, most of them. And if you, when you put this up, you could flash a picture of that group, that chorus of all those guys singing.
That's on our wall. We own 3 copies of vinyl. My wife is very tolerant.
Yeah. So, maybe the people watching this are not even aware of that session. But, there's a lot of guys there who are not alive now.
Yeah.
It goes back a ways. Kevin Dubrow is gone.
Yeah.
Jimmy Bain is gone. But Ronnie Dio is gone, and he organized the whole thing.
Yeah.
I go back with Ronnie Dio to I got lots of Ronnie Dio stories. When I was playing at Hobart College in upstate New York, I went to school. I was a freshman in 1962, so I'm an old dude, and I played in bar bands all through college, and I was kind of a big fish in a small pond, living in Geneva, New York.
Yeah.
But from 1965 to 1968, I was in a pretty good band. Let the phone ring a second here. We'll edit.
Okay.
All right, from 1965 to 1968, I was in 2 or 3 different bands. But from 66 to 67, 68, I was in a couple of pretty good bands that I made a good living just touring around that area. And I wouldn't even call it competition, but one of the other bands I played with a lot was not with, but against, and in several different places, like Fraternity Parties, was Ronnie Dio and the Prophets. And so I used to, like take an example, like where I went to school, it was Hobart College, and there's the main drag of town had all the fraternity houses, in a row across the street from each other, and there was 10 houses. So if I was playing at a fraternity on one side of the house, while you were taking a break from your 4 sets a night, you could just go across the street and see another band. So I would go across the street, and if Ronnie was playing, like usually he would be, I remember one night going across the street to see Ronnie Dio play because he was just so great.
Yeah.
I'd go across the street to see Ronnie play and walk into a fraternity house, which is nothing more than like an old fancy house that's the fraternity had bought 40, 50 years before and turned into a fraternity house. And in the living room of the house, they cleared out all the tables and chairs and everything. And there's a little riser, with little feet on it, like a Glee Club riser. And on the Glee Club risers in the middle of the living room is Ronnie Dio and the Prophets. And they had, big PA in this little living room, maybe would hold 30 people. And everyone's sitting around and bunched up in front of Ronnie's band. And they had Marshall lamps and all this stuff in this little living room. And there's Ronnie Dio and the Prophets doing a Tom Jones medley. If you can picture Ronnie Dio singing Tom Jones. Absolutely, I'm lying, I'm dying, okay? So there's Ronnie Dio singing my, Delilah, and he's playing, and he's the bass player, first of all, which most people don't know.
Yeah.
He's a great musician because he fronted Black Sabbath and he fronted Dio and he fronted Rainbow, and he didn't play, but he was a very good bass player. And the rest of the guys in the band were awesome, because they became Rainbow after a while, because it went from Ronnie Dio and the Prophets to the Electric Elves.
Yes.
And then it became Elf.
Yeah.
And then it became Rainbow, most of the same guys. And then things changed after that. And then, of course, Ronnie went off on his own. But the guy was a prince, and I got in touch with him when he was doing Hearing Aid, back to the subject we started to talk about. And I asked him, I said, Buck and I would love to come out there and be involved. And he said, sure, come on out. So I think we were one of the only East Coast bands to be involved in that.
Yeah. You guys
Ronnie had moved
from Twisted Sister, and that's pretty much all the East Coast.
Yeah, Eddie came out. I knew Eddie. We're still good friends. And so, I mean, there was Ted Nugent. There's plenty of people there I knew. Carmine was there, and his brother. And but there was, a lot of the West Coast, like Wasp. Guys I'd heard of but really didn't know, like Blackie Lawless. People like that were all there.
Right.
And but it was a ball, really. And then going out at night and hanging out at the Rainbow and stuff like that with all those guys, like, we just had a good time. And that's where I really got to bond with Rudy Sarzo for the first time. And Rudy was shocked that I spoke Spanish, so we were rapping in Spanish. And then we stayed in touch, Rudy and I. And then when it came time where we needed a bass player, I got in touch with Rudy.
Right.
And it turned out he was between jobs. And Rudy became our bass player for a few years. And that turned into a great meeting back then.
Yeah. Who doesn't love Rudy Sarzo? Everyone.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Cool. Well, 2 quick questions now. First one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Best TV discovery you've had during this whole lockdown pandemic thing? Do you have one?
Oh gosh. That's funny you ask, because it's something. Oh, Eric Bloom from Blue Oyster Cult, he wouldn't like a show like that. The Great British Baking Show.
A lot of people love that one. Yeah, you're not alone.
I'm totally hooked on that. And not that I watch it, I don't grind it. I don't watch it over and over again. But every time regular TV kind of sucks, So if there's absolutely nothing to watch, I can always watch one of those, and I think I'm in the third season. So there's like 8 of those, I think, 8 seasons. So I find that one thing I have learned from that show is that I could never bake. It is way too involved. It's almost like chemistry. And I never could be a chemist, and I never could be a baker.
Well, at least you have great television taste, I must say. So the close.
Well, I'm telling a really bad story on myself by saying I like that show. But no, I've watched a lot of different things. I'm looking forward to The Mandalorian, which is coming up soon.
Yeah.
That's a must. And it's funny how Baby Yoda has captured the world.
Exactly. So the closer, Eric. Besides buy The Simple Remains, watch all the videos, get the vinyl, etc., see the shows in 2021 and 2022. Besides that, any last words for the kids?
No, and they're not kids,
Well, there's 3-4 generations that like Blue Oyster.
Yeah, it's we do have some kids, but a lot of our fans are 40, 50, 60 years old. So you'd be surprised what a Blue Oyster Cult audience looks like.
Right.
But it's no, we're still out there. We want to work. We're held back like everybody else. I talked to a lot of guys in other bands that are friends of mine, and we're all in the same boat. And everybody wants to work. Nobody can work like they would like to. Maybe a show here or show there that's COVID safe. We would like to encourage everybody to stay safe and wear the mask. Listen to the doctors. Listen to the science. Don't be an idiot. And the other thing I would like to say is please vote and pick somebody that you believe in will do a good job to get us out of this predicament.
Well said. I can't thank you enough for your time, and I really do look forward to seeing you live, whether it's on the island, at Mohegan Sun, the city, wherever it is. Really looking forward to seeing you out again, and congrats on this new album, Eric.
Yeah, thank you very much. And vote!
Paltrocast.